I would like to welcome you to our reception tonight on behalf of the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which, for those of you who don't know, is a U.S. government corporation dedicated to developing new ways of delivering foreign assistance. And in particular, as symbolized by your presence here tonight, we have a great interest in looking at ways to creatively engage the private sector. My name is Frances Reed. I'm the Senior Investment and Risk Officer for the corporation, and I take great pleasure in introducing you to Mr. Daniel Yohannes, our CEO. He, in particular, is the visionary who is really helping us to focus our efforts on expanding our contacts with people like you in the private sector and looking at other types of partnerships with NGOs, with social responsibility funds and others to really expand the work that we can do in promoting free enterprise. I would like to take this opportunity to move straight to Mr. Yohannes.
Thank you, Frances. I appreciate that introduction and your efforts and expertise as MCC's point person for greater private sector engagement. We are pleased to be joined by Cape Verde's Prime Minister, Jose Maria Neves, AES Corporation's Global Chief Operating Officer, Andres Glewski, IFC CEO, Lars Thunell, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. The Millennium Challenge Corporation is guided by one mission: to reduce global poverty through long-term economic growth. Our ultimate success in achieving this mission depends in large part on the partnerships we forge with so many of you gathered here this evening. I believe we can and should find ways to work together to align our mission and business interest with sustainable development objectives. President Obama's strategy for global development recognizes that ending global poverty means investing in economic growth, promoting country-led development that engages government, civil society, and the private sector in the design and implementation of investments, demanding accountability from partner countries, and focusing on transparency and results. The Millennium Challenge Corporation combines the principles and practices that are at the core of the President's vision for development. We are committed to transitioning countries from development assistance to private sector-led economic growth. We believe economic growth and increased incomes will pull communities and countries out of poverty toward self-sufficiency. One of my top priorities at MCC is to involve the private sector in all stages of our operations throughout the world. We're building relationships with the private sector to analyze constraints to commercial activity, trade, and investment, so we can analyze solutions that will create investment-ready markets, identify commercial opportunities that MCC's support can help bring about, solicit advice on program design, seek co-investment or parallel investment, secure practical advice on designing innovative financing models for commercial needs, and encourage bidding on MCC's compact that would amount to about $3 billion through 2011. In addition, we are challenging ourselves at MCC to think more broadly, more deeply about what we mean by private sector engagement. To us, this means engaging the traditional private sectors as well as the whole community of non-governmental and non-traditional actors like social entrepreneurs and foundations. We're looking at the role of small and medium-sized companies play in development. Often, these smaller firms are executing impressive niche strategies in emerging markets. We want to work with firms and foundations dedicated to social entrepreneurship. They see the value of maximizing their bottom lines and their ability to do good in the communities they work throughout the world. We need to create a stronger climate for local entrepreneurship. How can our investments help developing countries develop homegrown capacity and skills to compete, do business, innovate, and create jobs. We want to pursue more innovative solutions. We may not be able to come up with new products, but we may be able to come up with new processes. We can learn from successful development experiments. Others have undertaken and explore innovative ways to scale them up to long-term viability and sustainability. In all these ways, the Millennium Challenge Corporation is committed to the fullest definition of partnership to achieve the greatest impact we can in the fight against global poverty. Tonight offers an opportunity to make connections as well as start and continue conversations to lay out a path toward greater cooperation. We want to work with you to discuss, strategize, and plan. Starting tonight, let us forge strong partnerships for progress that will benefit our missions and interests, as well as the lives of the world's poor. Thank you again for being here, and now it's my great pleasure to introduce the Prime Minister of Cape Verde, one of our partner countries, will travel next month to mark the end of the first compact. With that, please join me in welcoming the Prime Minister of Cape Verde, Jose Maria Neves. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome.
I'm going to speak in Portuguese. Meu amigo Juanes, caros convidados, minhas senhoras e meus senhores.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen.
A assinatura do primeiro compacto entre Cabo Verde e o Millennium Challenge Corporation em 2005 representou um dos momentos marcantes na história das relações entre Cabo Verde e os Estados Unidos e do desenvolvimento econômico do país.
The signature of the first compact between Cape Verde and the Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC, in 2005 represented a major landmark in the history of the relations between Cape Verde and the United States for the development of my country.
Em 1975, Cabo Verde era por muitos considerado um país impossível.
In 1975, Cape Verde was considered by many to be an impossible country.
Tais eram os constrangimentos, como a dramática escassez de recursos naturais e humanos,
Such were the constraints like the dramatic absence of natural and human resources,
a insularidade,
the insularity,
as secas,
the drought,
a escassez de água,
water scarcity,
a desertificação,
and also the desertification
a exiguidade de solo arável
and the extreme exiguity of fertile soil,
e a grande vulnerabilidade ambiental e econômica.
and the enormous vulnerability, both environmental and economic.
Desde o primeiro momento, tomamos consciência da grandeza do desafio.
From the beginning, we were conscious of the enormity of the challenge.
Construir um país quase do nada.
To build a country basically from nothing.
Tínhamos, todavia, as forças espirituais que nos vinham do herói da luta pela independência,
Nevertheless, the spiritual strength that we inherited from our hero for the struggle of independence,
Amílcar Cabral.
Amílcar Cabral.
Dizia ele que a independência só valeria a pena se depois dela as pessoas passassem a viver melhor, com mais dignidade.
He stated that independence was only worse if the people would be living better with more dignity afterwards.
Dizia ainda Amílcar Cabral que após a independência, os governantes deveriam governar com decência, honestidade e patriotismo para servir o bem comum.
Cabral also stated that after independence, the leaders should govern with decency, honesty, and patriotism in order to serve the common good.
E foi esse o caminho seguido por Cabo Verde,
And that was the path that Cape Verde followed,
definindo uma agenda pública centrada na melhoria da qualidade de vida das pessoas,
defining a public agenda centered in the betterment of the quality of life of its people.
E mobilizando as parcerias em todo o mundo para viabilizar o país e construir uma vida mais digna para todos.
And mobilizing the partnerships all over the world to make the country viable and build a more dignifying life for all.
A comunidade internacional cedo apreendeu a importância estratégica da opção do governo cabo-verdiano em investir nas pessoas.
The international community soon understood the strategic importance of the options of the government of Cape Verde in investing in its people
E decidiu apoiar o país nos seus esforços de construção dos pilares de desenvolvimento.
and decided to support the country in its efforts to build the foundation of its development.
E os ganhos estão à vista.
And the gains are visible.
Cabo Verde já é um país possível.
Cape Verde is now a possible country.
Hoje estamos a realizar um ambicioso programa de transformação de Cabo Verde num centro internacional de prestação de serviços,
Today, we are undertaking an ambitious program of transforming Cape Verde into an international service center
nos domínios do
in
turismo,
fields of tourism,
da banca,
banking,
dos transportes,
transportation,
das tecnologias informacionais,
and technologies,
das indústrias culturais e do mar.
of cultural and maritime industries.
Para cumprir esse desiderato,
To accomplish this objective,
estamos a modernizar as infraestruturas,
modernizing the infrastructure,
água, saneamento,
water, sanitation,
energia,
energy,
estradas, portos, aeroportos, telecomunicações.
communication,
Estamos a investir fortemente no desenvolvimento do capital humano
firmly engaged in developing the human capital
e a densificar o tecido empresarial,
and strengthening the entrepreneurship,
criando um ambiente favorecedor de negócios.
developing an environment that is favorable to business development.
A ação do MCA Cabo Verde tem sido um contributo fundamental no processo de implementação dessa estratégia de transformação econômica e social.
The MCA Cape Verde partnership has been a fundamental contributor in the process of implementation of this strategy of economic and social transformation.
Cabo Verde está a terminar um percurso de 5 anos na implementação do seu programa, com resultados extraordinariamente positivos.
Cape Verde is about to conclude a 5-year journey in the implementation of its first compact with highly positive results.
O Millennium Challenge Account contribuiu para a construção de infraestruturas agrícolas,
The Millennium Challenge account contributed for the construction of agriculture infrastructure,
permitindo a introdução de novas tecnologias de produção,
allowing the integration of new technologies of production,
a empresarialização do setor,
the promotion of agribusiness activities,
o acesso ao crédito,
the access to credit,
gerando novas dinâmicas de crescimento,
thus promoting new dynamics of growth,
novos empregos
new jobs,
e mudanças econômicas e sociais radicais nas ilhas agrícolas.
political, economic and social challenge in the agriculture islands.
As estradas, as pontes e o porto da praia que estão a ser construídos
Bridges and the port of Praia that are either being built
ou modernizados no âmbito do Compacto
under the compact
têm tido um impacto muito grande na criação de fatores de competitividade
had an enormous impact in the establishment of competitiveness
e na dinamização de importantes setores da economia.
and instilled a new dynamism in important economic sectors.
O MCA Cabo Verde tem sido também uma força propulsora de mudanças e de inovações a nível da administração.
The MCA Cape Verde has been a stimulating force for change and innovations at the administration level as well.
A governação eletrónica que se desenvolveu grandemente com o apoio do MCA
The e-government that we greatly developed with the support of MCA
permitiu-nos criar um sistema integrado de gestão orçamental,
allowed us to create an integrated system of budget management
cujo funcionamento garante o rigor, a transparência e a prestação de contas na gestão dos recursos públicos,
which ensures that public resources are managed in a rigorous, transparent and accountable manner.
e a Casa do Cidadão, uma plataforma integrada de prestação de serviços públicos
Of the Citizens House, Casa do Cidadão, an integrated platform of public services
que possibilita a criação de uma empresa em 1 hora,
which allows the setup of a business in 1 hour,
quando antes demorava semanas ou meses,
when before this could take weeks or even months,
e o licenciamento em 48 horas,
and the licensing in 48 hours
em vez dos 52 dias do passado.
instead of the 52 days that it could take in the past.
A Casa do Cidadão disponibiliza ainda sistemas eletrónicos de pagamentos de impostos.
The Citizens House also makes available electronic payment systems for taxes
Certidões online, entre outros serviços.
and other services.
A ação do MCA favoreceu igualmente
The MCA-CV Compact also favored
a aprovação de novas normas jurídicas,
the approval of new judicial norms,
como são os casos da Lei de Aquisições Públicas,
such as the Law of Public Acquisition,
garantindo rigor, transparência e igualdade de oportunidades às empresas
securing rigorousness, transparency, and equal opportunity for enterprise
e aos cidadãos no acesso aos mercados públicos,
citizens in accessing public markets,
e da Lei sobre Microfinanças,
and also the Law of Microfinances,
o que acabou por modernizar as instituições do setor,
which allow the modernization of the institutions in the sector
cujo funcionamento é agora supervisionado pelo Banco Central.
that are now under the supervision of the central bank.
Todo o compacto do Millennium Challenge Account
The entire MCA Compact
está sendo executado com recurso a instituições e técnicos nacionais.
is being executed with the assistance of national institutions and experts.
O Ministério das Finanças funciona como agente fiscal e desempenha as funções de controlador financeiro.
The Ministry of Finances operates as its fiscal agent and has the role of financial controller.
O MCA Cabo Verde utiliza o mesmo sistema financeiro e de contabilidade do Estado.
The MCA Cape Verde utilizes the same financial system used by the government.
Temos como resultado um grande reforço das capacidades nacionais e na gestão pública.
As a result, the national capacities in the public management have been greatly reinforced.
Ou seja, o MCA
This means that the MCA
contribui para uma substancial melhoria da competitividade,
contributes for a substantial improvement of the competitiveness,
com impactos muito positivos no desenvolvimento do empreendedorismo e do setor privado,
with a positive impact in the development of the entrepreneurship and the private sector,
no crescimento da economia,
in the economic growth,
na geração de empregos,
job creation,
na melhoria do rendimento das famílias,
the improvement of family income,
no combate à pobreza.
and poverty eradication.
Há mudanças de paradigmas no funcionamento da administração pública,
There is a paradigm shift in the public administration.
há mudanças de crenças,
There are changes of beliefs,
de hábitos,
habits,
de comportamentos.
behaviors.
Há mais modernidade em Cabo Verde.
Cape Verde is increasingly modern.
Cabo Verde é o primeiro país a qualificar-se para apresentar uma segunda proposta aos fundos do MCA.
Cape Verde is the first country to qualify to present the second proposal to the MCA funds.
Não obstante os indicadores socioeconómicos internacionalmente reconhecidos que colocam Cabo Verde na categoria de países de rendimento médio e dos progressos realizados,
And in spite of the international recognized socioeconomic indicators that place Cape Verde in the category of country of medium income
e dos progressos realizados,
and the progress that we achieved,
um conjunto de vulnerabilidades, tanto estrutural como conjuntural, persiste.
a range of vulnerabilities, both structural and interrelated, still persist.
No entanto, estamos a fazer o nosso trabalho de casa
But nevertheless, we are doing our homework
e a enfrentar com sucesso a crise que o mundo enfrenta.
and facing the crisis that the world is facing with success.
Hoje há um ambiente de grande confiança nas potencialidades de crescimento e desenvolvimento de Cabo Verde.
Today, we have an environment of confidence in potentialities of growth and development of Cape Verde.
Sabemos que o desenvolvimento do nosso país passa, antes de mais nada, pela densificação das liberdades e pela consolidação da democracia.
We know that the development of our country must include, first, the consolidation of liberty and democracy.
Sabemos que só há desenvolvimento sustentável com crescimento econômico e com justiça na distribuição dos rendimentos.
We know that the sustainable development is only possible with economic development and justice in the distribution of wealth.
Sabemos que só há desenvolvimento com uma visão partilhada do futuro,
We know that development is only possible with a shared vision,
com forte investimento nas pessoas,
with a great investment in the people,
com a realização do bem comum.
and the realization of the common good,
Ou seja, o desenvolvimento em África
which means the development of Africa
exige ética na governação,
demands demands a new government ethic.
Como diria Amílcar Cabral, decência, honestidade e patriotismo.
And as Amílcar Cabral once said, decency, honesty, and patriotism.
Cabo Verde é um dos países africanos que está em linha para atingir os objetivos de desenvolvimento do milênio.
Cape Verde is one of the African countries on track to achieve the Millennium Development Goals.
A realização desses objetivos depende fundamentalmente de nós,
The realization of these goals depends primarily on us,
do nosso esforço,
our efforts,
pois, como diz o ditado africano,
because as the African proverb says,
por mais quente que seja a água da fonte, ela não cozerá o teu arroz.
no matter how hot is the water from your river, it will not cook your rice.
Mas as parcerias
But the partnerships
são fundamentais para que esses objetivos possam ser atingidos.
are crucial to make these goals attainable.
Por isso, Cabo Verde merece um segundo compacto.
This is why Cape Verde deserves a second compact.
O segundo compacto deverá ser necessariamente inovador e criativo,
The compact must be innovative and creative.
permitindo mais investimentos na redução da pobreza,
More investments in reduction of poverty,
no processo de transformação econômica,
process of economic transformation,
na modernização da sociedade
the modernization of the society,
e na realização dos objetivos
completion
de desenvolvimento do milênio até 2015.
development by 2050.
O segundo compacto criará novas oportunidades para a capacitação das pessoas,
The second compact will create new opportunities for the development of human capacity
para o setor privado,
for the private sector
da administração pública e das outras instituições.
and other institutions.
Permitirá a constituição de novas parcerias para o financiamento do desenvolvimento.
It will also allow the establishment of new partnerships to finance development.
Assumimos com a determinação que nos caracteriza mais este grande desafio.
We take upon with the determination that characterizes us this new challenge.
Sabemos que vamos continuar a vencer
We know that we will continue to win.
porque partilhamos com os nossos parceiros esta vontade infinita de ganhar o
With
futuro.
our partners, this great and infinite desire to succeed in building the future.
Para finalizar,
Finally,
o governo de Cabo Verde deseja, nesta oportunidade,
the government of Cape Verde wishes at this occasion
agradecer a todos os nossos parceiros de desenvolvimento
our development partners
que têm sido fundamentais para esta fase de conquista
fundamental for the stage of achievement
e transição a país de rendimento médio,
country of medium income.
os Estados Unidos,
The United States,
o sistema das Nações Unidas,
United Nations system,
as instituições financeiras internacionais.
international financial institutions.
Queria neste momento agradecer em especial
I would like to especially thank
a todos do Millennium Challenge Corporation
the Millennium Challenge Corporation,
e a si,
but particularly
Sir Daniel Johannes,
Mr. Daniel Johannes,
pelo seu engajamento pessoal
for your personal commitment
e pela determinação que tem colocado nesta luta titânica
placed in this titanic struggle
para o crescimento e a redução da pobreza no mundo.
for the development and reduction of poverty in the world.
Com a ajuda dos parceiros
With the cooperation of our partners,
e em particular do MCC,
and particularly from the MCC,
vamos trabalhar nestes próximos anos
we will work in the next few years
para que Cabo Verde atinja em 2015 todos os objetivos de desenvolvimento do milênio.
2015, all the Millennium Development Goals.
Estamos empenhados em mostrar ao mundo
We are determined in demonstrating to the world
que o desenvolvimento é possível em África.
that development is possible in Africa.
Esta é a contribuição que Cabo Verde quer e pode dar à comunidade internacional.
This is the contribution that Cape Verde wants and can give to the international community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. One of the kinds of partnerships that MCC is very much interested in is the opportunity to learn lessons from other people who've pioneered in areas in which we have a great interest. And one of the outstanding institutions in that regard is the International Finance Corporation. And we are very pleased to have here Mr. Lars Tunnell, who is Chief Executive Officer and Executive Vice President of IFC.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the invitation to come here today. And I think it's very timely talking about partnerships. We very much appreciate the partnership that we have with the Millennium Challenge Corporation. We actually worked on I think a joint project for a credit bureau in Cape Verde. So it's to be here with the Prime Minister is also something that is very honoring. And we have good relationships for many, many years with AIS and have done a number of projects across the world. But we're here for this week, I think, to really think about the Millennium Development Goals and where are we after 10 years and what do we need to do for the next 5 years. And I kind of have 5 points that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit. The first one, I think, is that, yes, we've made progress. There has been significant reduction in poverty around the world. But if we look at where has that happened, it has really happened in the bigger middle-income countries, China, Brazil, India, and it has happened when the private sector has been involved. It has happened when you got growth into the economy. It has not happened when the private sector has not been involved. We have looked, for example, and are working now with the Chinese government in the rural parts of China. There you still have a lot of poverty. Actually, you have 600 million people in China still in poverty. We have worked and are working with the Indian government in the 7 low-income states, who's getting 1% of the foreign direct investments into India. We're working in the low-income states, in the IDA countries. We have shifted the investments of IFC. So today, 50% of our projects are in the low-income countries, in the IDA countries. Because that's where we need to now channel funds. That's where we need economic growth. That's where we need development. That's where we need to reduce poverty. So I would encourage us all to look at those. This is not where private sector by itself very often goes. I was talking to our friends from AIS who said, yeah, we love Brazil and we love India and we love China, but how about the others? And I think that is something where we as a multilateral can help. The second point is technology. I think we should use technology. There is actually an opportunity to leapfrog and jump ahead and use technology in a way because you don't have the old systems. And we heard the Prime Minister talking about e-government. I think that's a very good example. Mobile phones have revolutionized the world for poor people. It has actually brought those people into the world economic system and allowed them to participate in transactions. It's actually interesting, this was before my time, when the first mobile phone project was brought to our board, the discussion, was it a luxury goods or not? And today we know it's probably the best vehicle to increase interaction and reduce poverty in the world. The third thing is financial inclusion. Again, we heard Daniel Johannes talk about SMEs. How do we get, and microfinance, how do we get funds to those? How do we get funds to the small farmers? How do we allow for payment systems that can handle the small transactions? That is a major challenge. And we should remember, and that's where I think the combination of technology and banking is so powerful. Today, I think in the world you have about 4.5 billion people with access to mobile phones. You have about 2 billion people with bank accounts. So if you can use the mobile phones, that is now we are working with many countries trying to do, I think that can be a real breakthrough. The fourth thing is infrastructure. There is a tremendous need for infrastructure. We know that there are needs for roads, ports, trucks. 40% of the food produced in Africa is destroyed on its way to the consumer very often because of lack of infrastructure. We know that a child dies every 15 seconds because of lack of clean water. We know that 2.3 billion people are without sanitation on the planet, and so on and so on. So there is tremendous needs. And how will we finance these things? Well, in the good old days, the government could afford to do it. But as we look forward after the financial crisis, I think a combination of public and private money will be necessary. And this is really what I think partnership is all about. It's bringing the public sector and the private sector, governments and the entrepreneurs together. And this is what I would like to encourage everybody here. We've seen many people from different types of organizations that as we move forward to focus on that partnership. It's not always easy because we're not used to each other's cultures, we're not used to each other's processes, but I think that is what is needed as we move forward. And if we're going to make that progress over the next 5 years and really make a dent into poverty. Earlier today, I had the opportunity to sign a very good example, I think, of these type of project. It's a project for Haiti that was signed with the U.S. government, where we had Secretary of State Clinton signing on behalf of that. We had the Inter-American Development Bank, we had IFC, and we had a Korean textile company called SAE. And it's all about creating manufacturing jobs in textile industry and in an industrial zone on Haiti. And I think that's the type of projects where we can all come together. So that's what I would like to really look forward to working with many of you in that regard for the future. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity to come tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your words. And I would now like to take the opportunity to introduce someone who represents another type of partnership that MCC has engaged in. Mr. Andres Glewski from AES, one of the world's leading power companies, and a partner of MCC in El Salvador. And I would like to welcome you.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a real honor to be here, and I want to thank the Millennium Challenge Corporation for inviting me. Also, Mr. Prime Minister José María Neves, thank you very much for your presence. Let me talk a little bit about AES. AES is a large power company, as said. We're in 30 countries, though, so we're not only in the big countries, we're also in the small countries like El Salvador, which Lars had mentioned. We have about 40,000 megawatts of installed capacity, which is the size of most mid-sized countries, and we serve 11 million customers directly, which means we provide electric distribution services to about 50+ million people. Now, in the case of AES, as was mentioned, we do business in countries where it's difficult to do business. And it's very important to have public-private partnerships. As Lars mentioned, we have been in a lot of countries together. Specifically, for example, in Africa, we're together in Cameroon. It's one of our largest projects there. We're also in Nigeria, in Africa. We're also in Latin America. In Latin America, we're the 35th largest corporation and the 13th most profitable company. So in a sense, we've been able to grow and be in many countries through partnerships with the host governments and with the multilateral agencies. And this is very important. And as we move forward, we're seeing that these markets are increasingly attractive and vehicles for growth. Now, looking specifically at our partnership with the Millennium Challenge Corporation in El Salvador, we service about 80% of the distribution needs of El Salvador. It's about 1.2 million customers. The partnership that we developed was in the northern part of the country. And there, the project is one of bringing electricity to 24,000 people and increasing electrification from 72% to 94% in one of the poorest parts of the country. And I would say, other than providing potable water, electricity is one of the greatest assets to improve people's lives. And in a company like ours, where we make investments of 30 to 40 years, because that's what it takes to pay back a power plant or a distribution company, The truth is the private sector can only do well if the private sector does well. I don't know of a single case where a private company in our business did particularly well in a country which did not do well. And that is why we take these partnerships very seriously. We also take social responsibility programs very seriously. So looking at this specific program that we are doing together in northern El Salvador, you must realize this is one of the poorest areas of the country, where the average educational level is 4th grade. On the other hand, it's one of the regions that has the greatest, let's say, forestry and most arable land in the country. So we're undertaking this project. It's affected directly 6,500 people. It's also created 2,500 jobs in an area that very much needs them. So it's really been a wonderful experience. It's been very positive for us, very positive for our people. And being in 30 countries, we'd also like to take this experience into other countries. And if there's also ways that we can do this with the IFC, we'd be also extremely pleased to go hand in hand in these projects, or the African Development Bank, or the Inter-American Development Bank as well. So in closing, I'd really, again, like to thank our partners, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, for allowing us to work together in this program. We think this is something that can be replicated elsewhere, replicated on a bigger scale. And not only is it good for the community, but it's also very good for our people. One of the things we found that social responsibility programs are one of the greatest motivators for our people. In El Salvador in particular, we had a program that reached 50,000 school children to teach about electric efficiency and electric safety, and involved our people going directly to the schools and teaching classes. And we did the same also in Sao Paulo in Brazil. It reached 100,000 children. So this is another example, I think, of working together, of the importance of partnership, especially, I think, in our business.
Thank you very much. And again, on behalf of our CEO, Mr. Johannes, and the rest of us from MCC, we really, truly would like to welcome you. And there are a number of us here, and we're very much looking forward to talking to you about your ideas about how we can cooperate. Thank you very much.